Alex and Jacob. What up, my ginger?
That's up.
So I have Jacob Godbey and Alex Tait on the show. They're on a podcast called Ginger on Ginger and a show called Ginger on Ice. But let me just start with a compliment. This has been a long, tough year for everybody. I'm so clenched up emotionally. Like, I don't want to feel anything because of all the sadness and depression. So even when I'm happy and I unclench a little bit, and then I'm sad again. But I found on YouTube Gingers on Ice. So there I am watching Gingers on Ice, and I realized that I was genuinely happy. Like, I was laughing so much it was changing my body chemistry, and I realized I was not happy with a caveat. Not happy, but like unclenched, and I'm like so sad. I'm just genuinely happy, probably for the first time in months. And it's probably not because of you, but I happened to be watching your thing. And anyway, that was a magical moment. And I thought maybe everything is going to be okay.
It might be, and that's something that our audience has kind of informed us of. Back when we could perform live, occasionally we'd have some stuff that dipped into darker material, and they don't like that. They want to feel good. They want to feel happy without a qualifier. So I am more than happy to bring it because when we're creating comedy, it makes me feel that way. So
I'm from Boston. You're a really tough comedy town. We don't laugh. We're stoic. We're basically British. I can go through like an entire series of a sitcom and, I'm smiling and chuckling occasionally, but I laughed so much that I began to laugh at the premise. Like, what are these guys going to do next? And I kind of got mad, like, not mad at you, but like, people have to know about this comedy duo. You're both comedians. You're both redheads. So tell me about the Red Power movement.
First of all, thank you for the compliment, Johnny. That is really nice. It means a lot. I've been told I'm strawberry blonde, but for our purposes, I remain ginger.
Yeah, I never really saw it as anything ever before in my life, and then I remember one day in 8th grade, after the South Park episode came out about gingers, suddenly everyone in my middle school was like, "You're a ginger," and I was like, I have no idea what that means.
That's so weird, right? I've never heard that anybody does not like redheaded people. In fact, you may know that redheaded prostitutes get paid more than anybody, but redheaded comedians don't. What is Joe Biden doing about this, and are you angry?
I didn't know that redheaded sex workers get paid more.
So I've heard.
I don't know. We know some people in the administration to represent, ginger interests. We have not made successful contact with the White House yet, but we are working on it.
I think it's a long road, and hopefully collaboration across the aisles is what's really needed, which is difficult in this day and age, but it's what we strive for.
The sketch shows that we know the most, like Dave Chappelle or Amy Schumer, like if they're not being edgy and kind of biting, it's like it doesn't count. But after a year of trauma, the whole country is just ready for some folksy Midwest just happiness. What do you guys think about that? Are you folksy? Is there a Midwestern feeling to what you're doing?
I don't think we're the two guys that are gonna bust out some oh, there's nothing you can't joke about, that sort of comedy. You can make jokes. I don't think we're the two to do it. I think we sort of live our lives in a more, I would like to think, happy and upbeat ways. And I genuinely enjoy making people laugh, not making people uncomfortable, or making people happy, not making people uncomfortable. And I don't like people who like laugh out of, oh, it's so awkward or it's so strange or something like that. So yeah, I think it's important for us to keep it a little lighter and a little happier in general.
Yeah, I'd say there's been a recent wave, and these are both Canadian examples, but of like Letterkenny and Schitt's Creek, these sort of more folksy, rural comedies that do have a lot of like happiness and general amiability, and people really have been gravitating towards those. So if we could get onto that wave, somebody call us. We're happy to jump on that surfboard.
Bostonians are so fucking elitist, and I do apologize. I'm trying to translate my Boston experience to Missoula, Montana, where you're based. So I'm thinking in terms of Boston, there's a dark alley, and the guy who knifes you in Missoula is a cow.
Correct.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
we think West Coast, cow, 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 East Coast. I'm so sorry. I don't want to be elitist. Could you educate me about cool things about Montana?
For us,
Certainly.
for
Go
us,
ahead,
I
Alex.
would say it's more like you're in a, well, I wouldn't call it a dark alley. It probably has a light in it. You might get knifed by someone, but you probably know him. You probably get stabbed, and you're like, "Oh, James, the hell's wrong with you, man?" And
You
he's like,
live
"I'm
next
sorry,
door to my
man.
parents. Like, you can't
Yeah.
be stabbing people.
Your
You
mom's
were
gonna
in the
hear
grade
about
above
this.
me."
Yeah, exactly. That is the experience of getting stabbed in Montana. There are a lot of cows. You're not wrong about that. Media wise, Kevin Costner likes it here, so they film Yellowstone here. Yeah, and if you don't get knifed by a cow, you're getting knifed by a moose or a bear, etc.
Just nature in general, I think, is a little harsher out here. So I think maybe we worry about that more than knifing each other, because it's like, oh, I have to go home, which is a 20-minute drive across the like barren wasteland with no service.
Are you guys familiar with Down East Maine humor? Is there like a Montana version which is like super folksy? And do you care about that kind of humor?
There is a version of that in Montana, and there's what Montana lacks kind of is a sort of diversity, which is unfortunate. But there are some wonderful like native comedians here who I think would have more to say about sort of the long-standing Montana comedy traditions. What Montana lacks and what we kind of brought / are bringing to the table is a foundation in like sketch comedy. There's stand-up scenes in the cities here. Missoula has one, Billings has one, Bozeman has one, Helena has one, but no one's really doing sketch, and so that's part of why. I mean, I'm bad at stand-up, is why we started doing sketch.
Well, it seems to me like you have your roots maybe in a Monty Python type of sketch where just being silly is okay, but it's intellectual. On the podcast, you guys tell good stories too. I've heard that comedians take about a decade to find their voice. So it's been, I guess, 7 years for you guys. Where's your voice at? What's your uniqueness? Tough question.
That's a good question. I think it's, for at least for me, and I probably can speak for Jacob on this one, it's more about being ourselves. I think it's really easy. A lot of people say, "Oh, you guys just like you say what we're thinking," or something like that. Like, just, we don't have very good word filters, so for us, we just want to. I don't want to play a character of myself or anything like that. I don't want to have to explain, "Oh, that's not what I actually believe." I'm just this person. This is who I am. This is the way my brain thinks. Yeah, and that's what I hope the audience gets from that.
Yeah, I would say personally, voice wise, and this reflects in Gingers on Ice, is I think I spent the first half of us kind of running away from the Montana experience and not like authentically incorporating it. But then I moved to Los Angeles and I lived in Austin. And what I learned was unique about me and about the duo is our Montana background. And so with the podcast, we've been leaning a lot more into that. It's way more interesting and to people to hear a story about Alex almost dying. Several stories about Alex almost dying on hikes
on the Grand Teton.
Yeah,
that's a good podcast episode to start with for people who are new. I find that your podcast has a really good flow to it. You know what I'm talking about. You're watching maybe a late night, Conan O'Brien, whatever, and they say, "Oh, so I hear that you've got a pet goat who ran into some trouble with a fire hydrant." Or you just happen to hear that, which is so clearly a setup. But you don't really have these like unsmooth, gimmicky setups. And you also, I don't know if you just like edit the hell out of your podcast, but you also don't hit these conversational cul-de-sacs where you're kind of both stumped for something to say.
That we used to be a little more stumped. In the early episodes of the podcast, I did a lot more editing, but I'd say around episode 15, 16, we kind of hit our stride and learned what works and what doesn't. So we just avoid what doesn't work. I honestly, Johnny, I don't touch our podcast that much. Like I just kind of throw the segment jingles in, and if we talk about something that's not interesting to even us, I'll cut that out. But flow wise, I'm not condensing the podcast. You know what you hear is pretty much what you get.
Mm.
Yeah, I would say both of our best skills probably on this earth is talking. We can both just go and just go and go and go. So when we met each other, we hit it off like pretty quickly in that regard. And the other thing is we don't. I think I at this point I like purposely don't tell Jacob much about my week as it happens, so that when we come to podcast time, it's like which and I hope this comes across. It's just like catching up with with an old friend.
So I've got a question from your mom. Why don't you just try to get on SNL? Jacob, that's from your mom. Alex, your mom is very quiet in bed.
Yeah, it's I wish I could tell you how many times legitimately that question was asked to me by my family. Just you should just go on SNL. Oh,
Just drop a resume by 30 Rock. They'll know who to give it to.
Yeah.
show them your video. Show them your videos. They'll love your
Yeah.
videos. Show them
Just
that.
send it to laurenmichaels at gmail.com.
Yeah.
He checks that constantly.
You seem to have like a national talent. So, like, do you have aspirations in that direction? Have you got a plan? Like, what is the plan?
Sure, yeah. Again, thank you.
I want
so
season
much.
2 of whatever it is that you're doing.
I don't know if you've seen it yet, Johnny, but we did 2 seasons of a comedy cooking show for Delish.com. That was kind of our first like taste of like, oh crap, this could be something. Because you know it's hard to break out of Montana. Neither of us are like wealthy people. We don't have
Yeah.
like a marketing bone in our body. We're not like gimmicky performers who do something big and bold and brash to get eyes, and like it's hard. And it was we were both full-time students, you know, when we shot the pilot, and so and then I moved to Los Angeles to try and have some of those like national aspirations, and I just did not like it there. Met some wonderful people, don't like the city that much. But honestly, Alex and I, and he can elaborate on this a little more. Our dream would be to have like a travel show, like a comedy travel show, where we just kind of see the weirdest things that planet Earth has to offer.
Yeah, I when I graduated from high school when I was 18, my mother gave me a piece of paper that I had filled out in first grade. And in first it was supposed to be this like time capsule thing, open when you graduate from high school, whatever. And I it said what you want to be when you grow up. And I'm sure other kids put like astronaut and Batman, and I put comedian. And I don't know a whole lot of 6-year-olds that put comedian on that.
Yeah.
So it's always been the dream. I think we've tried our best, but neither one of us is willing to like sell our souls. We want to do it sort of our way, and we want to be we just want to be ourselves as we do it. So yeah.
I'm willing to sell my soul for 5 to 10 years. So
yeah, I mean, I take that back. If Pizza Hut offers us $100,000 to say Pizza Hut 10 times a podcast episode,
I'm there.
I'm there in a heartbeat.
What do you have that you want to plug?
The podcast for sure. Ginger on Ginger. We just hit our year, but it's not the kind of podcast that you'd have to listen to from the beginning. You really can kind of jump in any episode and get a feel for us within 3 or 4 weeks, and you know if it's your thing or not. So listen to Ginger on Ginger. You can check out the Delish show. Ginger's on. There is no hope of resurrecting that. We made a cooking show about us not knowing how to cook. But it's a fun watch, and yeah, as soon as live things are safe to do again, I'd be surprised if Alex and I aren't on stage, making fun of people in our audience.
Thank you very much for your time. Anything else you want to add?
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
This was wonderful.
Well, thank you again.